Well, I woke up this morning with a grin on my face. Got a date with my favorite in a naughty little place. She's the kind of girl who loves to play. When we're done, you know I'll say, I'll see you Tuesday. I'll see you Tuesday. Well, I woke up this morning with a grin on my face. Got a date with my favorite in a naughty little place. She's the kind of girl who loves to play. When we're done, you know I'll say, I'll see you Tuesday. See you next Tuesday, yeah, we'll have some fun. Whispering secrets till we see the sun. Let the weekend again, we're on our way. Counting down the hours till we meet that day. We'll dance through the sheets, make the neighbors complain. In this wild little world, we're breaking every chain. So bring your best moves and your playful mind. Cause when the sun sets, it's all wicked grind. See you next Tuesday, yeah, we'll have some fun. With a cheeky little smile, we're making every chain. So bring your best moves and your playful mind. Cause when the sun sets, it's a wicked grind. See you next Tuesday with a lot to flows. With a cheeky little smile where anything goes. Let's make some memories in every way. Counting every minute till that hot Tuesday. I'll see you Tuesday. I'll see you Tuesday. I'll see you Tuesday. I'll see you Tuesday. We'll dance through the sheets, make the neighbors complain. In this wild little world, we're breaking every chain. So bring your best moves and your playful mind. Cause when the sun sets, it's our wicked grind. See you next Tuesday where the lasso flows. With a cheeky little smile and making every chain. So bring your best moves and your playful mind. Cause when the sun sets, it's a wicked grind. See you next Tuesday where the laughter flows. With the cheeky little smile where anything goes. Let's make some memories in every way. Counting every minute till that hot Tuesday. I'll see you Tuesday. I'll see you Tuesday.
This show is to be considered performative art. The views and opinions expressed by the guests do not necessarily reflect those held by the host. The information presented in this program is not professional medical, financial, or legal advice. Also, Bill C. 63 can fuck right off now.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to my channel. In today's live stream, I'm going to be diving into a comprehensive list of 25 things that you can do this winter that you can use to prepare for an unforgettable season in 2025. The weather's kind of shitty lately, so it's a good time to sort of go through your stuff and get your things prepared for next season. So whether you're a seasoned camper or like just starting out, like some of you may be, hopefully these tips will enhance your gear, refine your skills, and reconnect you with nature, while you're cozying up by the fire. So basically, from maintaining your equipment and mastering some of those new, maybe like cooking techniques or whatnot, just to planning your trips and engaging with other local, bushcraft or camping or outdoor communities, I think we got you covered on this one. So stay tuned as I explore each of these actionable items, ensuring that you're fully equipped to make the most of your adventures come spring. Right now, I am streaming on YouTube and Rumble. It's actually two separate streams. They're not tied together. The YouTube stream is going through StreamYard. The Rumble stream is a replay of the YouTube video. So there will be a slight delay on the Rumble end of things, about 10 seconds. And also, I'm not monitoring that chat as closely because it doesn't show up in my StreamYard app, which is what is on my main screen. I'm looking at. You may see me looking away at other monitors. I have two monitors to my left, and I have another computer set up on my right that I'm using to do the Rumble stream. So that's the the event that's happening this morning. So hopefully you're interested. Anyways, I'm going to jump right into it. I made a list of 25 things that I think would be something that people should probably consider looking at over the winter, as I said earlier. Jesus, my coffee's already cold. How about that? So the first thing that I would probably think about looking at would be just to inventory your gear. Because if you're like me, you go out on a trip, I'm very organized. I have totes with specific items in them, and they're for specific types of camping, whether it be backpacking or, like long distance hiking. I have all that sort of gear, but that's in a separate pile than my main like truck camping gear. We do a lot of truck camping. We have a little Jeep, and we'll go out for one-nighters, two-nighters, that sort of thing, right? So it's important to have an inventory of your gear. And because what happens is we go out, and an example I can think of is we use these LED string lights that my beautiful wife has purchased from Amazon. These Chinese lights that are great. They have a little solar panel on them. They have a built-in lithium-ion battery, and you basically just plug and play. And these specific ones I have, you still got a little wheel on it, so you can wind the lights into the body of the light itself. However, things like this tend to, get moisture in them. Maybe the batteries get corroded. There's like all kinds of things that can go wrong. So it's, you put it away and you think it's working. And then when you show up at your campsite, a couple months or weeks down the road, you pull out your little toys and they're not in the best condition. So this is why listing all your camping gear and assessing its situation, replacing or repairing items as needed. One thing that I've really been strict about in the last few years is removing the batteries. Like if you have say you have a little, I don't know, AA battery powered headlamp or something like that, it's important to remove those batteries. The corrosion itself can destroy the terminals in the light or the radio or whatever you're using. So just by simply removing the batteries. Or the other thing that I've done in the past is I've taken a little piece of plastic bag or something that insulates, make even a piece of, even a rubber band around a battery. Like you can still have the battery inside the headlamp, but there's no connection. So hopefully it won't corrode or it won't accidentally turn on and destroy the batteries. So inventorying your gear. Other things that are important to look at are things like consumables, candles, maybe, if you have I know in mine, I have like a long shanked, it's not a Bic lighter, but it's like a lighter, right? And it's got a long snout on it so you can light your stove or whatever when the burner's hot. So I check those, make sure they're topped up or replace them as needed. But you're not going to know that you need this stuff. Excuse me for a second here. I need a drink of water. You're not going to know that you need this stuff until potentially it's too late, where you're already out there and you don't have the opportunity to replace it. Other things consumables such as spices. In my cook set, I have a specific bag that's just designed to carry little containers of spices and condiments, things such as salt and pepper, paprika, garlic powder, those things. And when I carry a small little jar of it, it's very easy to consume that whole amount. So next time you go out, go to grab your garlic powder and you've got half a teaspoon of garlic powder when you needed a tablespoon or whatever. I have a specific tote that's just my camping food tote. So in that I have things like a bottle of avocado oil. I have a container of lard. I have, like I said, the spices and condiments, but I also have containers. So I recycled these old, they're actually peanut jars. My wife likes to eat peanuts. So they're just a small little jar about that big, maybe 500 milliliters or something. But I have one filled with coffee grounds and I have one filled with flour. I have another one. What's the other one got in it? Oh, rice and just little things. And I just keep those in my tote. They're there all the time. Nothing worse than getting to the camp and realizing you forgot something. So for those consumable items that you're going to use on a regular basis, you can inventory that. I've gone as far as making a list. I don't really honestly use it that often, but I've actually made a PDF file. It's like a checklist where I can go through and make sure I have everything I need. Excuse me for one sec. Where's my mouse cursor? There it is. Sorry, I get a little tickle in my throat. So inventorying the gear is critical. The next item on my list is clean your equipment. Thoroughly clean tents, cooking gear, and backpacks to avoid mildew and damage. Nothing worse. I tell you, you go to your campsite and you pull your sleeping bag out of the stuff sack or your tent out of the stuff sack, and you see it's all moldy and gross and it stinks or smells like urine or vomit or whatever the smell is. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but when I'm done camping, and especially when it's a shitty kind of weekend where it's raining or it's really damp or whatever, typically when I'm packing up, it's a matter of putting stuff back in the Jeep as best as I can and just getting the hell out of there, get home. I come home, and if it's still raining, maybe like in my case, I don't have a lot of indoor drying space. I mean, I can hang stuff off my rafters here, which I do sometimes, but I like to be able to get it outside and air it out and make sure it's nice and dry and clean, right? So especially items like tents and sleeping bags, because they seem to hold the moisture condensation from your body, from your breathing, from body functions, that sort of thing, right? Rough camping when your sleeping bag is full of piss and vomit. Well, I've got a story. I took my oldest son camping one time, and Jen and I sleep in the Jeep, and I'm like, don't worry about it. You can use my tent. You can use my sleeping bag. Well, I guess he drank too much or whatever, was making a pig of himself. He ended up puking everywhere inside my tent, inside my sleeping bag. God, I was so pissed off. I ended up throwing the sleeping bag away, but I don't puke in my sleeping bag, and I don't typically use a tent anymore. It's just, I do once in a while if I'm backpacking with my youngest son or something, but even just this body sweat, like even inside our Jeep, when we wake up in the morning, we have a mattress, a foam mattress, but when we wake up in the morning, underneath that mattress, there's quite a buildup of condensation. So you really need to dry this stuff out. You need to take it inside. You need to clean it. I mean, I'm not talking like throw it in the washing machine or anything, but specifically get the moisture off it, get any mud or dirt or pitch. Pitch is another thing that's really horrible for equipment. If you get some tree sap on your tent. Another thing I noticed is the little Velcro tabs on your tent. If you have like a bug screen, sometimes those Velcro tabs can actually connect to your bug screen, and it pulls it apart, and it kind of wrecks it. So it's really important to clean it, fold it up nicely, put it back exactly so that next time you go to use it, it's just a matter of pulling it out, and it's going to be ready. All your tent pegs, maybe your guy lines, your tent poles. I mean, how many times have you gone somewhere and tried to put something together and shit, I forgot the tent poles, right? Well, try and set up a dome tent without tent poles. It can be done. It's not really that easy though. I've actually seen a guy do it one time, and he used a thin little alder branch that happened. He was lucky. The pole he was missing was only 5 feet long, so he was lucky that way. But some of those, telescopic poles or pieces that fit together, some of them are like 25 feet long. How are you going to find a branch that's a 1/4 inch in diameter, 25 feet long? You're probably not, right? I'm getting some people in the chat here. And I apologize. I'm not really watching the Rumble chat because it's on the wrong screen. I don't have it on my StreamYard stream. So I am seeing the YouTube stream though. And I want to say good morning to my friend Dave. He's been trying to get on the show. It's good to see him. Peppermint Patsy. Rogue's in here this morning. Good morning. Stephen with an S. My favorite, Mother the drummer. And who else we got? Oh, Yui's here now too. Hi, Yui. Good to see you. Hope things are going well across the seas. Trad Life's always here. She's a good one. And who do we got in? Looks like we got Team Padge over in Rumble watching. So that's cool. Good morning, Padge. Yeah, so cleaning and thoroughly cleaning your cooking gear is another thing that's easy to, especially if you're like me and you're using cast iron. You'd be surprised how fast cast iron will rust, especially if you're camping on a beach or salty air conditions. You'll overnight your pot will be rust, and it's not always the most pleasant thing to clean off. It's not the end of the world. It can be fixed, but it sucks when you get up in the morning to make your bacon and eggs and you got to scrub the rust off the pot. So that's the cooking gear. Oh, the other thing with the cooking gear. So I have a kettle, a specific kettle that I use over the fire, and it ends up getting soot on it typically. So sometimes I'll take that into the kitchen and I'll give it a good scrub. But I'm careful not to scrub the interior of the pot. I like to keep the seasoning of the coffee pot. In my opinion, I hate the taste of dish soap, and I won't use dish soap in a lot of my iron dishes. So you got to make sure you put it away properly. Actually, just hold on one second. Here's an example of my my Dutch oven bag. So in my Dutch oven, I'm going to pull it out and show you that how I keep it from going rusty. So here's the lid to my Dutch oven, and you can see it has, a nice oil finish on it. It's well oiled. If you look inside the Dutch oven itself, I've actually got rice inside it, and it keeps it from rusting. I've got it in a nice little bag that I purchased from Cabela's to keep it all together and clean. But just this little step. Now, I know for a fact that next time I go to use my Dutch oven, when I pull it out, it's not going to be a rusty piece of shit where I'm embarrassed that I brought this old relic. So these are the kinds of things that make the difference between somebody who's going to have a good time and someone who's going to be struggling to get their shit together. I camp with a lot of less experienced campers, and I see some of the errors they make. And I got to tell you, a lot of the times, the number one thing they forget to do is bring something. They'll be like, oh shit, I forgot the hose for my stove, or I forgot my chair. That's a real big one. People seem to forget their chairs. Going back to the last topic of the inventory list of your gear and cleaning your gear, then you have a chance to sort of go through, and you can clean it. You can inventory it as you clean it, which is something I enjoy. Take a breath here. Ooh, talking too much. The third item I've got on my list is organize storage. Okay, so that sounds like, what's that got to do with camping? So if you create a designated camping storage area in your house or in your garage or wherever you keep your stuff, it just allows for easier access and organization. So like I can literally decide I'm going to be leaving for camping and it's 8:20 here. I got to go at 9 o'clock. I would have no problem grabbing 3 totes in the Jeep and I'm ready to go. And I know for a fact they're all packed because I've already done them. I know so I have shelves and I have totes, and I know which section is for Jeep camping or hunting or fishing or backpacking. Everything's in totes, everything's organized for the most part. I got to admit, sometimes I let it get out of hand. I get lazy or don't put it away. But the best thing is to be able to just know for a fact that I can grab this tote and I have everything in here. Toilet paper is an important thing. I forgot to add that to the inventory gear. You don't forget toilet paper. Leaves can be useful, but when you camp with a woman like I do, you typically need to bring some. So organizing your storage. So basically what I did is I just went and bought some 2x4s and some 1x4s, and I just made a real simple shelf. It allows air to flow through. So, if I do put something up there that's got a little moisture or condensation in it still, hopefully it'll have a chance to dry. I do have fans blowing in the room here, so it just keeps the air circulating. The worst thing you can do is just throw all your gear into a corner in the pile in the corner. Things like insects, rodents can chew your shit up. They will destroy a $500 tent destroyed in one night. They'll chew that shit right up. So yeah, organize and store. And by putting them in totes, it keeps it all together. And also I label the totes and I know which tote is which. So especially when you have multiple hobbies, like such as I do, like I have one specifically for vertical caving. I have one for non-vertical caving because it requires different gear. So I don't need to bring all that gear with me if I'm not going to be going on rope or, like rappelling or ascending in a cave. So why have all that in the tote? I could just grab the tote. It's got my cave suit. It's got my emergency kit. It's got my spare batteries, my spare headlamp, that sort of thing. So it's critical to know what you have and have it stored in a way that you can easily access it. So I think number 4 is something that I like to do in my spare time. Everybody has a copy of the Backroads Map book, and in this day and age, everybody has, a copy of the internet right here. So you can do a lot of research ahead of time. Look for new camping locations and read reviews to plan future trips. So I think it was only a week and a half ago. I went on a trip. It wasn't last weekend. It was the weekend before. I went out to do a solo trip, and at first I was going to just take 10 items, but the weather was looking really rough, and I was like, this isn't going to be fun. So I tried to keep it as simple as possible: tarp, axe, saw, knife, case of beer, sort of thing, and steak. And I did, and I went down to the beach, but my point to this story is that this location was 24 minutes from my house. It was right on the ocean. There was a creek flowing right into it. It was absolutely gorgeous. It's a publicized wreck site, and I had never been there. I'd driven past it. I knew where it was. I had an idea what was down there, and it wasn't until I was watching another YouTuber who had actually camped there, and I was like, holy shit, I should go down there and check it out. Sure enough, I went down there, checked it out. It's fucking gorgeous, man. It's beautiful. Right on the beach. Tide went out. I was like pulling crabs off the shore. It was just incredible. I couldn't believe that I hadn't, for someone who's so, I feel like I know this area better than a lot of people do. Not the smartest guy in the world or anything, but I've certainly spent my time, 48 years living in this valley. I'm pretty familiar with the area. And to have a spot like that, it was only 20 minutes away, proves that I don't know what I don't know. So looking for new camping locations, I do what I like. I really enjoy the Backroads Map book. I found a ton of locations. I don't know if that's an international thing or Canada wide. It's BC. We have this thing called the Backroads Map book, and it's a spiral bound book. It's about 60, 70 pages, and it's just maps of the entire. There's different versions of different areas, but the particular one I look at mostly is the Vancouver Island one, and in the back, there's a reference appendix, and it will tell you about a little blurb about each specific site. Now, I believe the Backroads Map book is available online. I've never purchased it from online, so I don't really know. But there's different sections. There's it talks about lakes, it talks about wreck sites, it talks about ATV rides, it talks about hikes, and picnic areas. And so it gives you all these great ideas. And because it's, for example, this summer we did a 10-day trip to the north end of the island. And our intention was to stay 2 nights at each spot and explore and camp at some spots where we hadn't camped before, including one particular spot that was quite remote and, was basically 4 or 5 hours off the beaten path. So it was and it was all gravel road, and it was a rough trip out there. But in the end, we ended up being able to drive right onto the beach, and we had a magical night, 2 magical nights actually there. And we wouldn't have found that. We wouldn't have known about that if it wasn't for these publications. So that's cool. And then, so you take it to the next level. Now, what you do is you find the location of said, wreck site or campsite that you want to go. And then you go onto Google Earth. And then you start zooming in and you're looking around and you're like, oh, wait, this road goes into here. There's a little beach right there, like 50 feet from the end of the road. You wouldn't know this unless you're doing the research ahead of time. If you drove out there, you'd get to this end of this road and be like, oh, shit, this is the end of the road. You turn around and you leave, not knowing that the treasure is literally on the other side of the bank or something. You just might miss it, right? Okay, so Peppermint Patsy here, he's saying, I have a Vancouver Island backroad map book to give to an island dag if they want. Now I have a Southern Alberta backroad map book and detailed topo. Right on, man. I actually, when I was on that beach trip that I was just talking about, I was walking down the beach, and on some log, there was a brand new, I mean, mine's all marked up and torn and it's been used quite a bit, but there was a brand new copy there. And I met this fella from Quebec who was exploring Vancouver Island too. And I offered to give it to him because I already had a copy. And he was like, oh, wow, I didn't know about this. And then the next day, because he was just camped down from us, but the next day he comes, he goes, holy shit, look at all these spots. I was here and I didn't even know. So that's the research in the new campsite that can make a big difference. Okay, here's number 5. I'm gonna have a quick drink of water. My throat's got a tickle here. Excuse me. I apologize for that. Number 5, update your camping checklist. So I talked earlier about the inventory. Having the checklist is something I do have. I don't really need it anymore because I'm really quite organized. But when my kids were little and I would be taking them out, for 4 or 5 days or whatever, I would make a checklist. I'd make sure I had everything, their medication. I'd plan meals. Like I would, have everything planned out just so I didn't forget anything. But you want to revise your packing list based on past experiences and new gear required. Okay. Like it's November 27th. And yes, it is a Wednesday, even though the title's See You Next Tuesday. It is a Wednesday, but it's November 27th. Now, do I need to bring sunscreen if I'm going to sit in a dark, dingy forest campsite? No, probably not. Do I need sunscreen if I'm going to be climbing to the top of the mountain in the snow and have the bright sun on me all day? Yeah, maybe then I would. I personally don't need sunscreen. I don't really burn that often, but this is just an example. Bug spray. Here's a good one. Do I need bug spray right now? No, there's no bugs. So why would I pack it? So revising your list. The thing is, you take this bug spray, you take this sunscreen out and you put it on the shelf and you take your tote and you put it in your Jeep and you go do your camping and everything's great. And then March or April comes along, you're like, oh, let's go camping again. And you grab your tote, you put it back in your Jeep and you head out there and the fucking mosquitoes are everywhere, right? And you're like, oh, it's okay. I got bug spray in that tote. You forgot to put it back in because it's still sitting on the shelf from last November, right? So yes, I agree. Sunscreen is bullshit. So yeah, update your camping checklist. Make sure, go through, do I need to carry this little 500 milliliter bottle of flour? I never make anything with it. Do I really need it? Well, maybe that one time that you had Bannock and you thought it'd be a great idea and but you just never got around to doing it again. And now you've been packing this flour around for a year and who knows if it's even still good. Maybe the weevils or water or something got in it. So revise your packing list. Do you really need to pack? I mean, I've got a bad habit of packing batteries that I don't need. I have this little ammo tote that carries all my electronics and batteries and rechargeables and that kind of thing. And in that tote, I bet you I have 400 AAA batteries. Well, most of my stuff now is all run off lithium ion. Back in the day, all my headlamps were, single-use batteries, but now pretty much everything's rechargeable. So I don't know. Do I really need to be packing those? If I was under a weight consideration or space, maybe, but I mean, typically I just keep them around because you never know. But yeah, so that's an idea. The next idea I had was to test your gear. So the winter time, it being that, maybe you're a little more dormant or you got, you're bored. It's, it's dark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon now. So it's a good time to test your gear. You can use the winter to test any new equipment in different conditions for functionality. And I don't know how serious people would get in this, but if you were thinking, oh shit, it's going to be minus 25 tonight. Let's see if my sleeping bag is as good as it claims it is. And you go outside and you set up your tent outside your backyard and you lay in your, good to minus 25 sleeping bag and you're freezing your balls off. Well, I'd rather find that out at home than when I'm out in the woods. Like I found out last weekend how cold it could be. I didn't bring a sleeping bag, but yeah. So it's a good time to test things. What else could you do for testing gear? Make sure that one thing I've noticed is some of my stoves, I have this butane single burner stove. And I notice it's hard for me to boil a pot of water with it because the propane or the butane will freeze if it's even close to 0, 3, 4 degrees, 5 degrees. The bottle itself will freeze and it has a hard time boiling water. So knowing this ahead, I didn't know this before, and I'm struggling to make a pot of coffee. I'm like, fuck, why is it taking 25 minutes to boil a pot of water? And well, it's because my fuel was freezing up. So now I know I don't bring that particular stove with me for wintertime camping. It is what it is. I bring it in the summer, but yeah. Number 7, figure out meal prep. Okay, well, this is interesting. Experiment with new recipes suited for camping. I don't really like this idea of dehydrating meals for convenience because I think that's bullshit too. But I mean, whatever floats your boat, I guess. I'm not a big dehydrated meal person. As you see, I've got a 30-pound cast iron Dutch oven that I like to bring with me. So I'm not trying to save weight, if you know what I mean. But definitely try new recipes. My last group camping trip I went on, I brought a big lamb shank, and my friend had it because it was harvest season. We had a bag of apples, so we had the lamb shank, and we made this gorgeous meal. I mean, there's nothing better. There's something about campfires. They just add this element of flavor. It could be the fresh air. I don't know what it is, but there's something about campfire food that really always tastes better to me, at least anyways. Yeah, so the lamb shank was delicious, absolutely delicious. And people couldn't believe that this was made over, like, this is mind-blowingly good. Some other things we've experimented with was, I don't know, we've been making bread. So I was camping with my buddy, Al Stern. Some of you may know who he is. And we were just sitting around. It's same sort of thing. We're sitting around the fire under the tarp. It's raining. And I brought some pickled jalapenos, and I had some shredded cheddar. And I'm like, and 20 minutes later, I'm pulling out this loaf of jalapeno cheddar bread that I made over the fire. And oh my God, it was so good. A little bit of fresh butter on it. Oh, we ate the whole thing. It was just a snack before dinner, but and that's having that flour to cook with. So experimenting with new recipes, and sometimes they don't work out. I've tried to do things that just didn't work out. I find chicken to be one of those things that can be difficult to cook. Like if you're trying to bake it on a fire, things that are sensitive to temperature. But if you have something like, I don't know, I'm right. My next idea is a big pork shoulder. I want to do a pork shoulder in my Dutch oven over a campfire, and just, I don't know. I wish there was more people I could feed, because unfortunately these meals are so big, you end up with a lot of extra leftover. But yeah, experimenting with new recipes is definitely something that I suggest everybody tries. Number 8, upgrade insulation. So consider investing in higher quality sleeping bags or pads for warmth. This is a personal choice. My sleeping bags, we have Marmot sleeping bags. They're good to -15, but I really don't like being in a mummy bag. The way my back is, I like to sleep with my legs spread, and I hate sleeping bags. Now, if it's really, really cold and I can get into that mummy bag and I'm comfortable and warm, and then that's one thing. But most of the time when I'm camping, I hate my sleeping bag. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And I get tangled up in it. I ended up with just laying on the cold mattress underneath. And sleeping pads are a big thing too. If you don't have an insulated sleeping pad, people will see them. They go to Walmart and they buy these little, $20 air mattresses, the plastic Intex air mattresses, and then they take them camping and then they freeze their asses off. It is the coldest bloody thing to sleep on, and it's uncomfortable. And the next day you're going to be bitchy, and you're going to be sore. So I highly recommend investing in experimenting with different sleeping pads. One of the best pads that I have is actually like a 4-inch foam mattress. It's a tri-fold mattress, and it fits right in the back of my Jeep. When we sleep on that thing, it's like better than our bed at home. It's really comfortable. And then we just bring a couple of quilts, a little fitted sheet that we have made for it. And yeah, it's like sleeping at home. It's perfect. But when I'm in my tent, I have actually an air pad, a Climate Air. It's the brand's Climate, and it's an air pad, and it's 3 seasons. It's not really designed for winter, but it does keep you off the ground, and quickly inflatable too. So those the insulation, and I mean, you could even go further. There's things like insulated tarps. I don't know if people have seen these insulated tarps. I mean, if you're a tarp shelter kind of person, I like to, but not when I'm with my wife. She doesn't like it. But you can get insulated tarps. You can get reflective surfaces. So one side of the tarp will be green, and the opposite side will be like a reflective material, so that it'll reflect your heat back into the shelter space. Yeah, Walmart only sells trash gear. It's only good for the backyard. Yeah, I would probably agree with that statement. I mean, some things, I guess, like maybe fuel bottles, or I don't know, like I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Mostly garbage. But anyways, with the installation, you could also look at if you're going to be doing some winter camping, uh, clothing is huge. Don't wear denim. Okay. Like in the caving community, we see people show up, newcomers. We run these new trips and we'll see people show up in denim and we refer to it as death denim because once it gets wet, you're fucked. You're going to be cold. There's no getting warm from wet cotton. So having insulated clothing, merino wool, even polyester, those are some things to think about. Socks, especially. I'm really big on my merino socks, and even sitting here in my heated basement, I have long johns and 2 pairs of socks on, and I don't know if you can see, but I got a nice warm flannel shirt on too. And I don't like being cold. I'd much rather take a layer off than not having one to put on or one that's wet. So yeah, upgrading insulation. Moving along a little bit, kind of switching gears here. The next topic is to learn navigation skills. Brush up on your map reading and GPS usage to enhance safety on future trips. So most people are aware of sort of how to look at a map, like as long as it's orientated correctly, they can see, okay, well, north is up, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, I guess south is up, or whatever, however that works. But when it comes to actually navigating, even on my road trip with my wife in September, I'd be like, oh, which way is the next road? Like, is it a left or a right turn? And even though she was just looking right at the map and knew roughly where we were, like we just passed that lake, so we're right there. She couldn't wrap her brain around, well, she's turning the map upside down. And, those are skills that I take for granted because I've always, since I was a child, I'm familiar with a compass and a map and navigation. So one thing I often use is like I have you can't see it on here, but I use a program to track myself and look at. So I've got all the maps. I have them downloaded, so for offline use, I can grab them wherever I want. Let's see what this says here. I was an FAA master parachute rigger for 27 years. I understand sewing on another level. The sewing on every Walmart product is trash with the cheapest materials. Never buy their junk. Well, I'd agree with you there. And as an amateur seamstress, is it, or so, I don't know. I got a sewing machine. My wife bought me a sewing machine not too long ago because I wanted to sew some tarps. I can tell you, man, there's a lot in sewing, and you want those threads to stay in. That's for sure. So yeah, and as far as brushing up on your map reading and GPS skills, I don't really know the best way to teach that other than, when I take my son out, I point, like I use that backroad map book and I'll say, okay, I think it's 1 in 50,000 of a map or something. So it's quite zoomed out, but I'll get him to, kind of follow along with his finger as we're driving, and I'll get him to orientate the book so that it's the way we're going. So if the road goes to the right, I'll get him to turn the book just so he wraps his mind around sort of like that viewpoint of, and what I think with kids, it might be a little bit easier because they play all these RPG games, like the role-playing games where they have a map of the world on their little screen. And so they kind of got the idea how the map turns as you turn, the map stays oriented to your direction. So I think kids have an advantage over that in some way, I guess. But it's something to definitely, when it comes to orienteering, like I think that's a lost art. I don't see a lot of people with a compass and a map anymore. I can't remember the last time I actually used one it's been a long time. I mean, other than just for practicing skills or whatever, it's been a long time. Mostly what I use is my GPS, and especially when we're looking for new caves, a lot of the time it's got integrated layers into the map. So we've put in like geological layers, like say, okay, just show us the shelves of limestone on this hill, and you can look at the map or the image of the map, and you can see where certain minerals are, and then you got to decide how you're going to get there. Well, there's a big draw here, And that's the thing, being able to understand what topographical lines mean. That's a huge component. I mean, a lot of people don't even understand what all those lines are for. So being able to look at a topographical map and sort of see, okay, well, I can see there's a lot of close together lines coming down this mountain. What does that represent? What does that mean? Does that mean there's a draw? Well, there's a blue line going down the middle of it. What does that mean? Well, does that mean there's a creek there? Anyways, go familiarizing yourself, and maybe your co-pilot. See, lots of times I'm driving, so it would be to my benefit to have my wife be able to read the map better. Lots of times I just, I'll stop and just look at the map myself. So number 10, my favorite, practice fire making. Improve your fire making skills with various methods and materials. So I believe strongly that fire building is a skill that really takes practice. And anybody can light a piece of newspaper on fire that's covered in gasoline or motor oil. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is collecting tinder, identifying sources for dry materials that can be ignited. I mean, imagine if you fell out of a boat and you landed on a beach and you're soaking wet and you're there, or your boat sinks or something, and you're there. Nobody but yourself is going to get you out of that situation. So you may not have a lighter, you may not have a ferro rod or ferrocerium rod, you may not have a flint and steel. So what are you left with? What options do you have? You have basically a friction fire option. So if you've never made a friction fire, and very few people that I know have, especially in a wild scenario where you're basically figure it out, man, you're either going to build a fire or you're going to die. If you don't have those basic cordage skills, like to manufacture your own cordage for a bow drill fire, or the theory behind how to generate heat and the principles of fire building, like the air, the fuel, the heat. If you don't understand that, if you don't have a real solid handle on doing that, it's very challenging to light a fire. Even someone like myself, who I've lit thousands and thousands of fires in my life, I love having a fire. I did it yesterday in the rain, and even yesterday it wasn't raining, but it's rained here for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I lit a fire yesterday with my ferrocerium rod, and I got it going for a few minutes, and then it just got me thinking about, I don't think my wife could do that. I don't think most of my buddies could have done that. And it just really was simple for me to do, but that's because I've done it so many times and I understand what not to do. Is even simple things like having a spot where you keep all your tinder in one little pile so that when you strike your ferro rod, you're not going to blow it all over the place. And there's all kinds of little things. But my point is the key to developing these skills is simply through practice. Practice makes perfect. I know it's a cliche. It sounds kind of stupid, but if you're not burning, then what are you doing? Like, you got to get out there and you got to try it. Now, I understand not everybody's in a scenario where they could just go out in their backyard and light a fire. But if this is what your pursuit is, then maybe take a drive out to the park or wherever you're allowed to do this. You can do it. Other things like building fire starting tinder. I did a little exercise with my son not so long ago where we went and cleaned out the dryer vents, and he didn't understand the logic. He's like, "Oh, we're gonna go clean the dryer vent?" Yeah, we clean the dryer vent. That's what we do to prevent our house from catching on fire. We got to clean the dryer vent out every couple of months or whatever. And so we go down there and I pulled out all the lint, and then he couldn't. He thought we were just going to throw it away. And I'm like, no, we're going to use it. And he didn't understand. And then I got out some wax, and we melted some wax, and we added some barbecue starter fluid to it. And now all of a sudden he understands, okay, well, all I got to do is I just got to hit that with any kind of spark, and that thing's going to basically erupt into flames. And it's waterproof. I showed him, here, dunk it in water. Now try it. He pulls it open, sparks it, it's burning. 2-3 minutes of burn time. That right there, having that with you, you may not have that, but if you have, like what I do is I carry a haversack, or a possibles bag, which has basically a survival kit that I carry with me. So I always have that ability to get a fire going. I carry a little piece of fat wood in my pocket. I do carry lighters. I have 2 lighters in my haversack. Like, why fuck around? Like, why take the chance? If it came to a life or death scenario, I would much rather use a Bic lighter if I could than having to fart around with a bow drill. Because if you've never tried to use a bow drill, it's not the easiest thing to do. It's very, very challenging. So practice fire making. And also, hey, part of fire making is responsible fire building. You have to be conscious of, okay, things like species of firewood. So listen, if you're burning, say for example, Western red cedar or cypress, these woods they have a lot of oil in them. They collect water. They're hydrophobic, so they got water pockets inside the wood. And when it burns, it ejects sparks. So you'll see some wood is like just very, very spark intense, whereas other wood is not. There's no sparks. Like if you burn a piece of dry fir, there's virtually no sparks, virtually no smoke. A lot of heat comes off it. Whereas these other woods like cedar or yellow cedar or cypress or whatever, you burn them and they're just generating tons and tons of sparks, not a lot of heat, not a lot of coals. So experimenting with different types of firewood, like if I'm going to be cooking a steak over open flame, the last thing I want to do is use a piece of red cedar. Great for starting the fire, but it doesn't throw a lot of heat, doesn't give you a lot of coals. I'm going to use something like a piece of alder or maple or apple or cherry or some sort of hardwood. So that will, those are part of fire. And then the other thing is looking around for ground cover. Like if you're building a fire and you're on top and they're surrounded by dry grass or dry leaves or I don't know, dry moss or or there's trees overhanging. Sometimes you might have like boughs overhanging your fire pit. You got to be conscious of that. And it's common sense, but apparently common sense isn't so common anymore. So I look at some of the fire pits and I'll see like half burnt chunks of wood, green wood didn't really burn. You can tell they had a shitty fire. Basically, they got half burnt cigarette packs and half burnt beer cans in their fire pit and stuff. And they probably don't have the basic skills to generate a hot fire. Even with the porous materials, you can still get a good fire going if you know how. So practicing those are critical. The other thing is just extinguishing your fire. Make sure your fire is completely extinguished. Even in November 27th, whatever it is, if you create a fire and that fire gets away and burns, causes damage, causes injury, you are going to be liable for that if they catch you. So not only that, it's not just that, it's also responsibility. I mean, do you go out in the woods to destroy it, or do you go out there? Like one of my biggest pet peeves is toilet paper, finding piles of toilet paper or tampon applicators or beer cans or cigarette butts, even cigarette butts. Like you see, I don't know, I used to smoke and throw them away all the time, but it really bothers me now when I'm, in a site and I just see like wet cigarette butts all over the ground. It's like, why don't you just put them in your pocket or put them in the garbage or actually throw them in the fire so they actually burn? But anyways, putting your campfire out and testing it. So you put your campfire out, make sure it's well extinguished, put your hands in the fire pit so you can tell if there's still heat there. Don't leave anything burning. Be safe with your fire. And that's important to teach the children, especially because sometimes they don't understand how simple, an errant spark can, we've seen the damages that wildfires have created. And, it's really critical that we practice safe fire making, and also, be conscious of campfire bans and regulations. I mean, if the regulation says, and currently, I believe the regulation is 0.5 meter by 0.5 meter by 0.2 meter. So you can have a half meter by half meter by basically 10 inches or something. And then that's the limit for the campfire size. So if you have some ginormous pellet fire is 40 feet high and there's, you can see the flames from the other side of the planet, that's not cool. It's not necessary, and it's not really cool to do in, public land. So right on. I'm getting all kinds of messages here that I'm missing. Stephen with an S was talking about the dryer lint and the wax. He says he puts that mix in cardboard egg cartons. Yes, I've seen that too. I've never tried that. I don't know. what's the advantage of putting it in the egg carton just to keep it contained, I suppose, right? I tend to flatten them down into a puck, and then you sort of just rip them. When you tear it open, it exposes some of the loose fibers. Good morning, D's here. Yeah, Stephen again. He says hates finding garbage out there. Yeah, and you know what? I'll pick it up. I bring rubber gloves with me just for the purpose of picking it up, and extra garbage bags. I hate seeing that shit. Toilet paper is the worst. It just drives me nuts. And we got what do we got here? Yeah, we got too many gram weenies. Won't carry a digging tool to bury their shit. Exactly. And Rogue saying scrubbing straw in your hands as use it as a starter material. When the straw is broken down and heated, it lets off gases, and it takes this is a spark if the material is dry. Yeah, I agree. So just rubbing them in your hands like this kind of breaks the fibers up, loosens them up, allows more air right into the spot, and you know it's definitely going to be easier. And Steven says the cardboard absorbs the wax too. Yes, so I guess it would stay waterproof in that case. Well, that's interesting. Thanks for contributing there, guys. Okay, the next thing is number 11 is while we're getting through this quick is plan group trips. So coordinate with friends or family for group camping to explore new experiences. Nothing like IRL meetups. Okay, I love camping. During the COVID scamdemic, whatever you want to call it, we were all locked down, and my wife wasn't working, and I wasn't working, and we basically were sitting at home, and we just camped, man. I think we did 200 nights or something in 2020. A ridiculous amount. We were just always camping, but it was always just me and her. You know, we had our methods. We would just go out there, we'd do our thing. But I really enjoy camping with others, especially other couples, you know, where you can you just talk about different things. I mean, I know everything about my wife. So, I mean, there's only so much talking we can really do. We play Scrabble, we play Carib, you know, we listen to music or podcasts or something while we're out there. But when you have other people out there, it's really cool because you get to build relationships, which is really, really great. Find your friends. It's what the whole point is. But also you get to see their different techniques for camping, their different equipment, the different foods they like to eat when they're camping. Maybe you try something that you never tried before because you just didn't even know it existed. I'm thinking about my recent trip with Alan, his wife, and he had some pickled chanterelles, and they were freaking delicious. And I just hadn't tried them. I had never even really thought about it, to be honest. So it was just one of those things where hanging around with other people, it definitely broadens your perspective on things. And also, you know, maybe they're going to be like, oh, well, why are you doing it that way? Why don't you try this instead? And by that, you're exposed to new knowledge that maybe you hadn't previously had, right? Especially things like knots. I'm a bit of a knot freak. I like to tie different knots, and you know, a lot of times when I'm camping with people, I'll just show them, here, look at this. You just do this, and you don't have to worry about trying to untie it, right? Birch bark is awesome. Yeah. Sorry, Rogue, I'm at a bit of a delay with your messages here. Also, a good fire starter is cattail heads. If you're stuck in the winter, you can find them in the ditch or the swamp. Yes, they do work well. And birch bark is one of the best fire starters that you can get. We don't have birch trees here in British Columbia. Well, in British Columbia, we have birch trees. We don't have forests like you guys have out east. So it's yes, that's where we use cedar bark instead, or fatwood. There's a lot of fatwood. There's a lot of fir trees, so fatwood's not hard to find if you know how to find it. Okay, so planning the group trips. Yes. So other ways that how do you coordinate a group trip? Well, there's a few different ways. Like we have our Telegram groups that a lot of us are in, and you know, somebody will take the initiative and say, okay, we're going to do a camp out this weekend or this date. And sometimes, you know, it's most of the time I'm going to say people will be excited about it and they'll express interest in it. But when it comes time for the date, something comes up, or, you know, they're busy or something breaks down, so they don't show up. Don't be discouraged. It's not anything you've done. The important thing though is to always be thinking about, you know, expanding your network, your group, you know, to a point. I mean, I'm not really interested in hanging around with a bunch of yahoos or, you know, going to act like assholes. I like to sort of, I don't mind having a few drinks or whatever around the fire, but I don't want it to be a shit show. And I sort of like the family environment where, we respectful of the site and others around. And I think when you demonstrate that to other people that you are camping with, I mean, if you go out there and it's just a shit show, you're messed on acid and you're cutting down trees when you're drunk and you're crashing your vehicles and fist fighting with other, like all that drama that needs to be left somewhere else. That's not my thing. I would rather have it where we sit down, we have conversations and we share foods and jokes and experiences. And that's why it's so critical, is those good times are they're rare these days. It's rare to get together with people like that. All right, moving on. Number 12, attend gear expos. So visit outdoor gear shows for the latest equipment and expert advice. Well, we don't have a lot of that happening in our neck of the woods. And I see we have these like giant bushcraft events in the Appalachians, like down in the southern states and in the UK. And I'm really envious of these great, because I know we have such a big bushcraft community and camping community. I feel like it's almost, maybe I should almost do something about getting one going on the island here. I don't know. But these outdoor gear shows, I mean, you can get deals on things. For example, it's also a good place to meet like-minded people. Maybe you'll run into somebody or find somebody that's in your area that you didn't know before, and that's a good place to meet up with them. So I don't have a lot to say on that one. But this group, the planning the group trips one from before, number 11, sort of ties in with my next one, number 13. Sorry if you can hear the sirens. A busy day for the ambulance, it sounds like. But number 13 is volunteer. So participate in local cleanup or trail maintenance projects to give back to nature, or even organizing trips and group events. So for myself, I've been an active volunteer for a lot of years. The caving community, working on the executive administration, and also I was also the editor for the magazine. And I was always organizing trips. I was always that guy that was organizing, okay, well, we're going to go do this cave this weekend. And I put it out in the group forum, and whoever wants to come is welcome to come. We would organize, well, I say but I mean, it is a group thing, but a lot of the time, a lot of the work I did do myself, but we would organize family trips. I really enjoyed seeing kids, like having this knowledge being shared with children. And I really, I think that's critical, that as adults, we take the time to educate the kids on some of this experiences, get them away from the Minecraft, get them away from the computer for, a few days or whatever, and take them out and show them how to whittle a spoon or build a fire using a ferro rod, or I don't know, whatever you can think of. There's all kinds of things you can do with children out in the woods. Bushcraft project. My son really enjoys using his little knife when he's out there. He just cuts sticks, sharpens sticks. He just minds. That's all he's thinking about. And I love seeing him in that state where he's just happy. He's just present and there, and not bogged down by, the hustle and bustle of everyday stuff. So volunteering, other places you can volunteer, like I said, is cleanup. Like we were talking about earlier, everybody hates garbage out there. Well, if you hate the garbage, then maybe you pick it up. First thing is, don't leave any. The second thing is, if you see a mess, nothing wrong with picking it up. And I know a lot of places you can go to the landfill and you can sign a piece of paper saying, I cleaned up this spot, this is where it was, and they won't charge you for dumping the trash that you picked up. So hopefully you can find something like that. Cleaning up. Other thing you can do is, actually, I know from the mountain bike community, they build a lot of trails. And now I don't know the legalities behind building trails in public land. I haven't done a lot of that, but yeah, you could do things like, in the springtime or early summer, a lot of the trails will get completely overgrown. Bring a pair of clippers with you, little hand clippers, and cut the pieces that are covering the trail. Just trim the trail a little bit. It takes nothing to do, and you're going to help out the next person. It's going to keep the trail intact and maybe making it more enjoyable for the next time you're there. Whereas, how many times if you've ever hiked through a trail that's completely overgrown and a little bit wet, it sucks. So yeah, do something good for somebody else without expectation of reward. Just do it. Number 14 is check local regulations. Okay, this is something to consider. Stay informed about camping rules and regulations, especially regarding fire safety. I touched on this a little earlier about the fire safety, but in my particular area on Vancouver Island, there's a lot of private forest land, and it was public land when I was a kid, and well, it was railroad land, I guess. And now there's a company that owns it, and they're not as friendly about people coming on their property. So they've installed gates and a lot of access points, and typically those gates could be closed at any time. And now, if you're on the other side of that gate, that's maybe okay if you're camping, but because it'll be open in the morning, sort of thing. But if you're, in a remote location, you're all of a sudden splitting some kindling, and now your hatchet's buried 3 inches into the side of your leg, and you need to get medical attention immediately. You're trapped behind a gate. Now, hopefully you have cell service or some way to contact somebody on the other side of the gate to get you to some help. But these are just things to consider, especially when you're on, an area where you're going in behind a gate that could be locked. So stay on top of those regulations. It's not always easy to do. I know people that actually go into places where there's an unlocked gate. They go behind the other side of the gate. They close the gate. They put their own padlock on there. And then, I don't know. I guess they protect themselves from others coming in. I don't know if I'd agree with doing that, but this is what some people do, I guess. Now I'm sort of digging here. Number 15, upgrade your tent. Research better options based on size, weight, and weather resistance for your needs. So maybe it's time to get rid of that Walmart Coleman tent that you've been, replacing every year for $200 for the last 20 years. Those, there is better options. There's other, you don't have to spend a mint. I mean, some of the tents are pretty really expensive, especially the lightweight tents, the hiking tents, the Big Agnes. And my tent right now that I have a few tents, but the one I mainly use, or I would use, is just a 2-person. It's a Marmot tent. It's a 2-person little dome tent, weighs I think 3.5 pounds. It's what I use. But you know what? Honestly, I just prefer to sleep under a tarp with a pad or whatever. I'm just going to comment on this. Stephen with an S says bolt cutters in the Jeep. Yeah, bolt cutters don't work on gates anymore. I don't know if you've looked at the gates they build. You're not shooting that lock. You're not cutting it with a bolt cutter. You're not cutting it with a grinder. You're sticking your hand up inside a small little, hole that's just big enough, and then you're over top of another thing, and then you got to it's not, bolt cutters won't do it. Cutting torch or cut off saw, and you're going to be cutting through a 1-inch thick gate, basically with steel gate. It's not going to be quick. So bolt cutters aren't going to necessarily get you out. You'd be better off just to try and build a road around the gate, probably. Buy last year's tent model and you'll save a small fortune. Hey, that's a great tip. Going through the clearance, especially this time of year. If you look, a lot of places because they're trying to get rid of their spring or summer inventory from last year that's left over, they'll actually discount it very heavily. Black Friday coming up, and Christmas sales, Boxing Day sales. This is the time maybe to buy something that's not in season at the moment. So yes, you're not going to use a 2-season tent right now, but if you could pick it up for $100 off or 50% off or something for these Black Friday or Boxing Day sales, that would be a bonus for you come spring when you need it, right? I'm not a big tent guy. Like I said, I would be more happy with a canvas tent, a large wall tent, and a wood stove and big coffee pot and recliner. That's my kind of tenting nowadays. But yeah. Number 16, watch survival guides. Educate yourself on essential survival skills and first aid through videos or webinars. Now, this is really cool because in this day and age, we have such a large online community of people willing to share their experience and knowledge and techniques. We have people who are putting videos up, and you watch the video and you're like, wow, okay, I'm not going to do that because obviously that's causing this problem. I watch this one couple who do videos quite regularly. I'm not going to mention their name because I'm going to criticize them a little bit, but they do videos and they're a lovely couple, and I really enjoy their content. And guys are amazing photographer and really get some great images. But they have a rooftop tent, and it rains here, and almost every single video showing them setting up their tent, it's wet. They can't dry it, and it's on top of their vehicle, so it's elevated, so it's, I don't know, 12, 15 feet to the top. So you'd have to assemble some sort of tarp very high up to protect the tent from getting wet. I'm a big tarp guy. I really enjoy setting up tarps. I just use Bushcraft Rebooted here is talking about Aqua Quest, and I agree, they are the bomb. I don't own one. My friend has been trying to push it on me, but I don't own one. And the reason I don't own one is because I also like to have fires, and I don't really care about the weight. I'm actually been using this really heavy duty Gorilla tarp lately and really enjoying it. It's a real thick. It's got sewing grommets in it, and it's great for setting up tarps. So other things you can do with watching survival guides is gear reviews. Like I've been working on making videos for just over a year now, and one of my biggest problems has been audio issues with my microphone. And I have lapel mics, but they're just such shitty sound quality that a lot of my videos are unusable. A lot of my footage the audio is completely unusable. It's either way too loud, way too quiet, or it's like in and out, depending on how you're turning away from the mic. So if you watch these product reviews, you can kind of get you have to be careful. Obviously, there's some people who are going to be biased because they're being paid. But if you watch some of these videos, for example, I've been waiting to purchase a new mic set and see. Well, I thought it was coming out in December, but just yesterday, day before yesterday, they released the new DJI mini mic mini, it's called. And I've been waiting for this to come out, and boom, all of a sudden it's available for sale. So I ordered it last night. Really looking forward to fixing my audio issues. I couldn't find a single faulty stitch in any of my AquaQuest tarps. Extremely well made with quality materials. Yeah, I agree. Also very expensive. So I have a hard time justifying the cost of the tarp to put a hole in it with a spark. So I guess if I wasn't using a fire, maybe, but yeah. All right, Padge, have a good day. She's got to go. She had a show this morning already. So thanks for coming on and watching. Next one, develop a budget. This is something that probably a lot of people don't think about, but create a financial plan for any upgrades you want to make to your camping setup or future trips. Here's a perfect example. In September, we went and we did our 10-day North Island trip. So Jen, has to book her holidays basically in January, I think. So in order to make a trip in September, she's going to have to plan in January. So this is a great time to also create the budget for that trip too, and maybe start saving or preparing for it. If you say you decide you want to try purchasing a rooftop tent for your September camping trip and it's January, well, if it's, I don't know, it's just off the top of my head, say you need $3,000 for this addition to your gear. So you've got 10 months to do it. Figure it out, do the math. Okay, well, I need $300 put away every month, and come September, you're going to have a brand new tent. But if you don't put the thought into it ahead of time, then you're not. I don't have $3,000 to drop on a tent. Do I have $300 to save every month? I don't even know if I have that. But if that's what my motive was, my motive right now is to buy audio and video equipment, which is expensive, which is why I'm saving up, slowly acquiring the pieces as I can afford it. I'm not going to go borrow money just to buy the stuff, but as I can afford it, I can upgrade my gear. Because it's always ongoing. There's always something new and exciting that you want. I mean, I find it hard to believe that anybody's ever satisfied 100% with what they have at the moment being the perfect setup. There's always some new shiny gadget or gizmo that, makes you feel all warm and tickly inside. And also, though, I have to be careful with retail therapy. I see this happen with my wife all the time, buying shit that really don't need to buy. I mean, how many camping dishes do I need? How many kettles do I need? How many axes and saws do I need? How many knives do I need? Knives are a big one. I've been doing really well with not purchasing knives, but those are the kinds of things. So develop your budget, figure out, okay, 2025, I am going to replace my sleeping bag. I am going to replace my tent, and I am going to replace my, I don't know, tires. There's another one, vehicle expenses. My camping revolves around my Jeep. I just ordered new brakes, rotors, front and back, and I think it was $280 just in parts for my Jeep. Well, it's not because I'm not going to say that's a camping expense. It's wear and tear in my vehicle, but most of the wear and tear in my vehicle is from driving up and down mountains and with heavy loads. So developing a budget for camping, a lot of people don't think about that, but I think that's definitely something that should be factored into your thoughts. And number 18, connect with nature. Spend time outdoors in winter to stay connected with the elements you love. There is so many things you can do in the wintertime that you can't do any other time of the year. Snowshoeing, skiing. You can do things like, what else? I'm thinking skiing and snowboarding, but little things like figure skating, exploring waterfalls. I love looking at frozen waterfalls, looking at ice structures, ice fishing, if that's in your area. Yeah, but, here we go. This is going back to last thought. Being on YouTube doesn't help with the gear buying problems. Lots to try, test, and share with the community. Absolutely. I get it. I get it. But if I watch a video and somebody says, "Oh, look at this piece of shit," here's a perfect example. The Lodge brand, everybody loves Lodge. It's a great cast iron, but their Dutch oven table that they make looks like it came off a Temu. It's $280 for this flimsy piece of shit. So I would have bought that thing. I was already looking it up on my phone trying to purchase when I first saw it, until I saw the guy open the box and it was all dented and it was warped after he used it once. I was like, so. But yeah, connecting with nature, spend time outdoors in the winter to stay connected with the elements you love. I have this one particular video, and it's just me snowshoeing along, and there's just like frozen icicles on the rock, and you got nice fresh air. It's cold. Good time to be outdoors. Number 19. Excuse me, I got a cough here. I'm going to mute myself for a second. Sorry, my apologies. I don't know. I got something in my throat today. Document experiences. So keep a journal of past camping experiences to reflect on and improve for next time. This is an interesting idea, and I did do this for a long time. I wonder if I have that right here. So what I do is I had a specific journal just for camping. So I would write, and I would do a little sketch, a little pen or pointilla sketch of, one of the key moments, maybe like sketch a skillet on a campfire with, steak in it or something. I don't know what, a sketch of, Jen spilling her drink on herself again, or I don't know, whatever. But also writing down like the temperature, how far it took us, how far out of a drive it was, like how many minutes it took us to drive there. Was there any rough parts in the road there? How many people were at the campsite? Was there fresh water available at the campsite? All these different details. So next year when you're planning your trip, you can refer back to your journal and remember, okay, well, that time I went to Outlook Lake, this is what happened. And, you'll remember little details like, oh, don't forget to buy fuel, because remember, you almost ran out of gas because you didn't buy fuel the last stop, you bought it at the stop before. Like little details like that. These are things that you'll develop with experience, and that's why it's important to document your experiences. Number 20 is join a camping club. Engage with local camping enthusiasts to share tips and organize trips. I think we talked about this earlier when we were talking about planning group trips. But I don't even know of any camping clubs, to be honest. We have our our little Telegram group that we've been doing some group camps with. There's only been about 4 or 5 of us that actually get out regularly, but yeah, so just engaging with local camping enthusiasts, and yeah, that'll be good. I'm getting down to the nitty gritty here. I don't have too many more to go. Number 21, repair clothing. Mend to replace worn out outdoor garments to ensure protection from the elements. This is a good idea. I mean, if you have broken zippers, well, I don't know what it is with me and broken zippers. Maybe I'm just well endowed. I don't know, but I tend to wear out the zippers of my pants for some reason. I wear these Addy Bauer Guide Series pants, hiking pants. I love them. I get about 8 pairs of them, but I always blow the zipper out. And now I've had this lady replace the zippers, and they're good. But another thing that comes to mind when it comes to repair clothing is got a hole in your waders. If you're a fisherman like me, and you remember in May when you went fishing in the river, you froze your bloody ass off, and then you put your waders away and you haven't used them because it was warm all summer, and now you're going to go fishing January. Guess what? Your waders are still going to leak. So now's the time to take them out, fill them up with water, find the holes where they leak, fix them. Greasing your boots. That's another thing. Actually, I have to do that today. It reminds me because I did get fairly wet yesterday. Greasing your boots. If you're wearing cork boots, repairing your corks or replacing your cork boots. Laces. My boots, I buy those Kevlar laces. They're about $20 a piece or something. They're not cheap, but for whatever reason, the grommet on my boot seems to keep wearing right through the same spot. So it's always good to have laces. Check your laces. Make sure they're not gonna be giving you a hassle on the trail or whatever. What else can we talk about for mending and repair? Oh, rain gear. That's another thing. Rain gear. My rain gear. I got Helly Hansen Armor rain gear. It's fairly expensive, fairly heavy duty rain gear. My rain jacket's not keeping me dry anymore. I don't know why. There's no holes in it. It just leaks. Probably because it's 8 years old or something, and it just had enough. So this goes back to the very beginning. We were talking about inventory your gear and cleaning your gear. Checking the condition of those clothes. That's a critical thing to do. And this is probably, who was just mentioning, somebody said something about knots being fantastic. I can't find it now. Here we go. This one. Knots are fundamental. Okay, I'm a geek. Yeah. So I am too. And this is the next one is learn knot tying. How many hours and hours and hours could you spend learning knots? As many as there is. I swear to God, there's more knots than there are people and ways to tie them. So you got to spend your time mastering useful knots. Don't waste your time on, the monkey fist or whatever crazy knots that you see on YouTube shorts. Some of them are useful, but some key knots, like a figure 8 or, bowline or, clove hitch or, marlin spike hitch, or these are useful knots, trucker's hitch. These hitches are useful. And the only way you're ever going to make them useful, or they're ever going to be useful, is if you can tie them just with your eyes closed. That was one thing when we were learning how to tie knots for caving, because your life relies on this knot. So can you tie the figure 8 follow through knot with your eyes closed or in the dark, because say you lost your headlamp? These are how you practice these skills over and over and over and over and over. Repetitiveness. Tie them with different rope, different strings, different grades, different sizes. Become familiar with I do not know knots. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know knots, and I would cave with so many people, and they'd be like, "Oh man, how do you know all these knots?" And I'm like, because I want to go caving, and I don't believe that other people are going to know them for me. So I don't trust other people's knots in general. There's people that I do. I mean, if I know the guy and but I will inspect a knot. And somebody was asking me about recently on a video I made about using the water knot versus the beer knot. So maybe you don't even know what those are, but the reason I don't like to use the one particular knot, even though it's theoretically stronger, is it can't be inspected easily to make sure it's tied properly. So little things like that is, again, experience. It comes through experience with getting a lot of spam lately. I don't know why. I've been getting a ton of spam on my phone. So I don't know. The best way to tie knots is just to practice. And it's like I said, there's as many different ways to tie them as there is, but it's important to tie them and have maybe like even a mentor, somebody who can look at your work and see if you're doing it correctly, because especially if you're relying on it for life support or safety, if you make a mistake, it could cost dearly. So yeah, spend some time with some knots. There's great books out there. There's hundreds of thousands of videos. I notice a lot of those YouTube shorts, they love making those little fancy little videos, but they're not always the best. The best way is to grab a piece of rope, sit down, and tie a knot. That's the best way. And same as I'm an ex-logger. I used to be a hook tender on a grapple yarder, and we would use steel cables. So learning how to not braid, but what do you call it? Splice and put in eyes. Those are all skills that take practice, but somebody has to show you how to do that. You can't just imagine, oh man, I want to make a splice on a 1/8 of an inch, inch and an eighth cable. No, you need somebody to show you how to do it, how to tuck it. So bushcraft YouTubers are obsessed with knots and fire starting. Yeah, because they're fucking critical. They are the two most important things as far as I'm concerned are knots and fire starting. I mean, maybe up there with wilderness first aid, but yep, knots, fire starting, shelter building, foraging's up there. Chris Freestone, good morning. Good to see you here, man. I remember knots like people's names. 5 minutes later, I forget. Yeah. Well, and that's why I say you got to practice. You really need to practice till it's just second nature. I remember I used to do banding. So they'd load the logging trucks with the logs. And then as a young landing man, you'd have this bundle of wire. It's about, 50, 60 feet of wire. And you'd literally throw it over top of the band. And then you'd pull it down. And then you'd have to tie a cat's paw in it. And if you didn't know how to tie that knot, the logs could fly right off the truck. So you need to have those skills. And the only way I learned that was like, sometimes it's a stupid little saying, around the tree, and a rabbit comes out of the hole, around the tree, goes down the hole, or whatever those are, so you can, interesting. And that's where my knot obsession came with, was actually climbing and caving too. And I didn't really have YouTube. I had an old guy teaching me the knots and teaching me the names and different kind of things like that too. So, well, and let's move on to number 23 in my list. Invest in safety gear. Consider adding items like bear spray, multi-tools, first aid kits to your pack. First aid kits you should have. You should always have some sort of method to provide bleed control, whether it be an ab pad, makeshift, or even an improvised tourniquet. Splints are easy to improvise too, but you need some sort of way to secure it. We used to do mock rescues. So yeah, I know I keep coming back to caving, but that's just from my experience. But we used to do mock rescues where the group of us would venture into a cave, and then, say a couple 100 meters into the cave, somebody would accidentally fall down and break their leg or bust their pelvis, or, there was always some immobilizing injury scenario that was, invented. And then we try to improvise. Now, when you don't have anything, like when you're in a cave, you are stuck with what you have. You may be able to find a branch if it washed in, or an old bone or something down there, but pretty much you're in the dark, in the wet, and what you have with you is what you have to survive with. So having a basic first aid knowledge is important. And, that's a whole topic on its own, but understanding the basics of first aid is critical, but also having the I guess the ideas or the mentality to be able to improvise, especially with first aid. My list says check items like bear spray. I'm not a big. Listen, I got bear spray. I'm not going to say I don't have it. I have carried it. Vancouver Island, we have black bears. They can be aggressive. I've never really had an issue with a black bear, but I have had issues with bear spray. I went to a logging camp and was I don't know if you ever heard of the Great Bear Rainforest. It's a protected area in Knights Inlet on the coast of British Columbia, and it's a bear reserve now. But we were logging there, and I was at the back of this new setting, back being away from the road, about 1,500 feet out from the road. And I looked down in the mud where I had my backpack waiting for me while I was working, because you go out there and you put your gear down, and basically you're the guy that moves the wires for the cable. So as the cables, so as the yarder moves along and takes all the wood away, you keep moving the cables along. Well, anyways, where my backpack was, all of a sudden there was a rather large footprint in the mud. And when I say large, I'm talking probably about twice the size of my head. Big claw marks. I'm thinking, holy shit. We're in grizzly bear country. This is a big mama bear. And then I saw the little tracks behind the big tracks. So the mama and a baby, maybe one or two babies. I don't know. I didn't see the babies. Didn't even see the mama bear. But I just remember thinking, holy shit. And in my backpack, I had a bottle of bear spray in a little holster. So being my smart self, I put it on my belt, right? And if you've ever used bear spray, there's a little safety. So it's a little plastic clip, and you can just push it out with your thumb, and it keeps it from being discharged accidentally. Anyways, I worked all day long with this bear spray on my tool belt. You wear a wedge belt and a radio belt, and I had this bear spray on there in case I ran into this bear. And it's fine. I grab my backpack. Day's over. Grab my backpack, walk out, hike out to the crummy, get in the crummy. The crummy's the truck that we used to get back and forth, and get back to the logging camp. It's a barge, and we have like a dry room where we keep all our gear, and it's really warm in there, so it can dry our gear out. And I hung up my gear, went to bed, ate dinner, went to bed, whatever. Get up in the morning, and all the guys are in the dry room getting dressed. Everybody gets dressed in their work gear in this room. Anyways, I put my tool belt on, threw my backpack on my back, and proceeded to walk out towards the crummy. And as I was walking through the room from one side to the other, my backpack had inadvertently knocked the safety mechanism out of the bear spray and continued to discharge the bear spray canister right in the middle of the room where 20 other crew members were also sitting. And I walked right through the room, and I could hear this shh, but of course I'm walking, so it's going behind me. I didn't realize it. I turned around, and it's just, I gassed the whole room. I gassed the entire room. And that was the time I realized I think you're more chance of you hurting yourself with bear spray. If you've never had bear spray, trust me, you do not want it. You do not want that shit anywhere near your children, your family. This stuff is horrible. So I don't know, if you can't carry a firearm legally, like most of us can't these days, to protect yourself. I don't know, bear spray. I think an air horn is more effective deterrent to a bear. He's fucking blast an air horn at them. They don't like that. So that's what I would have to say about that. What's the other safety gear? Oh, simple safety gear. Here's something. How about a helmet? How many times have you seen people riding around in their side by side or their dirt bike or their ATV? They have no helmet on. Or you see somebody walking through a really windy forest, and there's branches falling around, and they have no helmet on. But not only do you need a helmet, how about a signaling device attached directly to your helmet? So this is my actual caving helmet. It's made by Petzl. I don't know. It's old now, but it's my actual caving helmet. Put on my chin strap. Have a whistle. So right on my neck, right on my face, I'm laying there. A branch just fell out of the tree, hit me across the back. I'm laying underneath it. It's on my chest. I can barely talk because I'm in so much pain, but it doesn't take much to blow that little whistle. And then somebody maybe can find you. I don't know. It's just an idea I had as far as investing in safety gear. A $2 Fox 40 whistle can go a long ways for signaling. We're getting down here. Number 24, check for wildlife encounters. Research how to avoid wildlife issues in your chosen camping area. We were just talking about bear spray. Other wildlife issues that I've had a problem with is mice and rodents. They are disgusting little filthy creatures. I hate them. And, they can basically get into anything. I don't know if you realize this, but they can, a rat, a full-size rat, as long as they can get their skull through the hole, they can get into it. So if you have a quarter, the size of a quarter, a rat, a 2-pound rat can get through that hole. So they can get into things. That's why having heavy duty rubber or plastic totes will often be enough to protect your food, especially in garments and stuff like that, keeping it put away, everything sealed up and clean. I'll tell you a little story. There's this place just outside of Nanaimo, British Columbia. It's called Newcastle Island. And Newcastle Island it's not a very large island. I'm not sure how big it is really, but it's not very big. There's a park there. I think it's a provincial park anyways. Really cool place. There's old trees. It's grassy. There's also raccoons there. And these raccoons are a couple of them are albinos. I don't know if you've ever seen an albino raccoon. How about an albino raccoon that stands 4 feet tall? These fuckers are big and they're vicious and they're smart and they'll come right up. We're camped there. I literally watched a raccoon walk up to a guy's tent, take his little claw, and cut a door in the back of the tent, go inside. Another raccoon goes in. The two of them pack away this guy's cooler, and there's 2 other raccoons backing up behind him, defending the guys stealing the cooler. I've never seen raccoons work together like that. It was insane. It was insanity. And apparently they do this to people all the time. They steal coolers full of food. And then the park guy's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll get your cooler back tomorrow because it'll be laying in the bush with nothing in it." So, one thing I've done on some of my coolers to protect against that. This is just my basic cooler that I use all the time, but I've installed a latch right on the lid, so the raccoon or mouse or rat couldn't just open it up. They actually have to physically unlock it to get into it. Okay. So other issues would be insects. Insects can be a very big problem, especially if you have allergies to. So if you have, hopefully whoever has the allergy has required medication or EpiPen or whatever that they need. But if you're the group leader, I mean, it's important that you understand the dynamics of your group, especially when people are relying on you. So if somebody say I don't know, I'm thinking type 1 diabetic is a good example. If they have the tendency of going, "Whoa, well, what's wrong with Jen? Oh, fuck, she's just being lazy, she's tired, she's hungover." Or is she going into ketoacidosis because her blood glucose is so low that she can barely even understand what's going on with her? So having a knowledge of your group, like allergies specifically, I mean, I guess that's pretty common if it's your kids, but if you're taking out somebody else's child or in a group situation where you may be charged with taking care of them, you need to know what you have there. So bees, fire ants, even poisonous plants. We're fortunate here in British Columbia, we don't have poison ivy, but poison ivy is a horrible thing for a lot of people. And especially people that don't know what poison ivy is or how to avoid it. Ticks are another one. We could talk about snakes. We're not in Australia. We're pretty lucky, but snakes could be an issue. Spiders. Yeah. Wolves. I guess wolves, cougars. I mean, there is predators. generally fairly fortunate. But I mean, if you have a small little, what do they call those little yappy dogs, lap dog or whatever, if you have one of those around your camp, or even a big dog, I guess, but if you have a little dog or a small child, or some people even bring their cats camping, I don't know, that's kind of weird, but they're an attractant. They can attract other predators. So, you know, you got to be mindful of your scenario, especially, you know, maybe during like salmon season or berry season when the bears are, you know, probably close by to where you're camping, or if you're in the area. So yeah, check for wildlife encounters. I mean, obviously, if there was somebody eaten by a bear, you probably would have heard about it, but not really a lot you can do. And it's not always the matter of being able to do something about it. Maybe you don't go to that spot. When we went up island in September for our 10-day trip, we camped at a place where there had been a grizzly bear with cubs spotted in the recent weeks. And we don't have grizzly bears on Vancouver Island unless they swim across from the mainland. So there's Georgia Strait, which in some spots is only a couple 100 meters wide. The grizzly bears will smell food and they will swim across. So right where we were camped for 2 days, where I was fly fishing and having a blast, that's exactly where the bears had been spotted. So I didn't see one. I'm not really too worried about it. I mean, if they're at the river because of fish, typically they're going to be worried about fish. But if you got 4 salmon in your hands and you're just walking down the trail and out comes Mr. Bitchy Black Bear, he might want your fish. So yeah. And idiots tend to forget you're miles away from a hospital. Well, this is true. Hey, here's an idea. How about you take your kids out camping? Just you by yourself, 2 kids. In my case, I got 3 little ones. I take them out camping and I fall ill or fall to injury. Something happens to me. Do your children understand how to contact help, how to get help? Are they going to be able to drive your vehicle down the mountain into cell service? Right? These are things you want to think about ahead of time, you know, and this isn't just a wildlife encounter. This is just like the reality of being remote. You take your kids or maybe even your wife, like, or somebody who doesn't know how to even get out of where you are. You're so far out in the bush, they don't even know which way to drive. So little things to think about. Maybe you don't go that way. Maybe you don't take them out that far. Maybe you got to have some sort of plan for everything. You know, the only way you're going to get help is if you can physically call for help sometimes. So if, you know, your spot doesn't work or your satellite transponder doesn't work, you're going to rely on cell service or physically driving right to the hospital. So there's that to be thought about. I had a girlfriend bring her cat with us camping at Lake Mead, Nevada. She let it explore. I told her not to. The coyotes had a snack that night. Yeah. I do not understand these people that walk their cats on a leash. I was at the grocery store the other day and this lady had her cat. And the thing is like jumping up on the shelves and walking along the shelves and shit. It's like, I don't know. I'm not a cat guy. Thanks for staying with me this long. I've got one more to go, and I think we can open it up for a little conversation here. But I'm gonna have to have a pee break pretty soon. Number 25. I said I'd do 25. Here's number 25. Reflect on past trips. Analyze previous camping trips for what worked and what didn't to improve future experiences. Well, I can think of one perfect example of that from not my last trip, but the trip before that. We had been camping with this one particular individual. Guy was a bit of a weirdo. I'm not camping with that guy anymore. I don't even talk to him anymore. You know, I should have used my research from previous trips with him to determine that I didn't want to be around this guy when he was intoxicated. And I didn't listen to my better judgment, and it was a fucking horrible weekend. So, but analyze previous camping trips for what worked and what didn't to improve future experiences. You know, I brought up the example of my fuel bottles freezing up on that one particular stove. You know, don't use that in the winter. What's some other things you could think of? You know, there's no need to pack your bug spray and your sunscreen if you're going to camp in a dark, dingy forest site. Make sure you put enough gas in the vehicle. Make sure you bring water purification, like all these little details. But going back to the other one about journaling on your camping journals, this is where you can reflect on those past trips and think, okay, well, maybe this time we'll go this way or we'll do these things, right? Um, we we're gonna improve our trips in the future by building on what we've done in the past. So, work towards eliminating the parts that were uncomfortable or you didn't like and fix them. It's up to you. You make your own trip. That's the beauty of camping. There's no right or wrong way really to do it, as long as you're enjoying yourself and getting out there. So if it doesn't bother you to sleep on a cold air mattress that you bought from Walmart for $10, fill your boots. You're not hurting anybody by doing it. If you're going to wake up hypothermic and we're going to have to transport you to the hospital because you chose to, maybe that's maybe my reflection on the past would be like, well, last time he brought a shitty mattress and he's probably going to freeze to death, so I'm not going to go with him this time. Or I'm going to bring an emergency blanket or a warming center for him. Like I'm trying to use examples, but I think everybody understands what I'm getting at here about analyzing the previous camping trips. Sarah says, sorry, my throat's bugging me. Sarah says, lol, my reflection would be never again. Life is hard enough. Camping sounds like a kick in the nuts. Well, I hope you don't have nuts to kick, but camping is one of the best things in my life. It's my favorite thing to do. It's I could live. I actually was really excited. I thought the world was coming to an end about 2 or 3 years ago, and I was actually really looking forward to like bugging out and just being done with all this people shit. Grab a box of bullets and a box of beer and go out and just be a man. Be a man. But that's my 25 items that you can do this winter to prepare for an unforgettable camping season in 2025. I hope everybody got something from this today. I think I've pretty much covered everything I was going to talk about. Let's see here. Sadly, it's junk gear that ruins the outdoors for many. If your first experience is miserable, you won't go again. 100%. That's a great point. And that's why, as sort of I'm not saying that you are, but for me, I'm typically, either a trip leader or one of the more experienced people. That's why it's my responsibility to make sure it's enjoyable for everyone. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, you're getting wet, you should put your other coat on or something. There's nothing wrong with gently guiding people into having a better trip or sharing some of your stuff. I go camping, it's just me and Jen. We're going on a group camp out. I don't bring 2 chairs. I bring 4 chairs now because I know there's always 2 people that don't bring chairs. I bring extra coffee cup or insulated mug, extra spoons, extra toilet paper, because I know there's always people that are going to forget their shit, and hopefully they'll learn for the next time they go out. But I mean, if they don't have that, it's not going to be as much fun. And, a couple weeks ago, I was mentioning that trip where we had an unenjoyable guest. And I think that actually harms some people's thoughts on it. We live and eat like kings for days when I go camping. No matter how prepared I think I am, I always forget something. And that is the moral of the story here, is how do we get from having an enjoyable trip and trying not to forget things, trying to cover our bases, planning and preparing. And it's sort of just the idea I had. I mean, I'm not saying you got to go run down into your basement and pull out all your camping gear and make sure it's all tickety boo. I'm just saying next couple of months, there's probably got some spare time to do some of that, to think about that. Christmas and gift season is coming up. So, maybe, if you have a camping partner or somebody, you could, I buy stuff. If I see something that I think Jen would like or would, make her camping trip better, I would definitely buy it. She buys stuff for me like that. I mean, most of our bigger purchase items are, either a Valentine's Day gift to each other or a Christmas present or birthday present or something like that. We try to do that for each other. So there's definitely things you can do to make it easier and things you can avoid and not do, and it'll just be shittier, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna put a video up really quick here and an invite link, and then I'm gonna go have a pee. And when I come back, if anybody wants to jump on and talk about what we were talking about, I will let you back in here. Still time to ask Fatty Claus for the gear you want. Yeah. Anyways, I'm just gonna go here. And I'm sorry, I really have to escape for 1 minute. So I'm just gonna put on the video I posted yesterday, and you guys can watch it. If you want to go have a pee or whatever, go do it. Now's the time. This is a fail video from me yesterday. But anybody that's going to bugger off while I'm gone, thank you for watching. Appreciate you being here, and hit that like, subscribe, and share button, and help me keep this going. All right, put this on play. Oop, need some volume. I'll be right back. I know, looks so good. Big bear shit. Could be perfect. Oh yeah, don't cut live trees. Ooh, start that camera. Let's get me back on here. All right. All right, folks, we're reaching the end of this 2-hour extravaganza. Give yourselves a round of applause for staying awake during my therapy session. Live stream. Now, before we wrap it up, let's go over what we learned today. One, I can't cook, and the smoke alarm is very much tired of being my sous chef. Honestly, if I got a medal for how many times I've set that thing off, I'd be an Olympian by now. Two, online shopping is both a blessing and a curse. It's like Christmas morning every day. If Santa was a late night impulse buyer, he kept buying gifts for himself. I've gotten so many packages delivered. I think the delivery guy is going to start addressing me as Home Sweet Amazon Prime. And finally, how come no one warned me that sitting in front of the screen for 2 hours would turn my back into a crumpled up tortilla chip? Seriously, my chiropractor is going to be sending me Christmas cards after this. But in all seriousness, folks, it's been an incredible ride today. Remember, even if life gets hard, just think of me. I'm out here streaming, looking like I just rolled out of bed in a fashion crisis. If you're ever down, just remember, at least you don't have to explain to a bunch of strangers why you're eating leftover cold pizza at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. So as we wrap up the stream, don't forget to hydrate, because we all know I'm just one cringy YouTube video away from needing an IV drip. You've been a fabulous audience. Join me next time, where hopefully I'll have a better haircut, less pizza, and maybe, just maybe, we'll tackle some adulting. But until then, stay weird, stay wonderful, and remember, if you can't laugh at yourself, just pull up one of my videos. Have a good night, everyone. Pretty wet wood.
November 26th, apparently.
So after, I don't know, an hour or hour and a half, I guess, my attempt at Felix Himmler's rotisserie, I don't know, I just can't get it to turn. It might be just too much friction. I don't know. It does turn, but it's pretty heavy. You need a little bit more current, I think. So, yeah, I don't know if that's going to work out today. I was really hoping to have something cool to do, but that's okay. This is how you learn. You learn different things, right? And same as the fire. Obviously, it's really wet out here. It's November 26th. And, short of cutting down a tree, which I guess I could do. There is lots of dead ones around, but frankly, I'm just really not into it. I'm kind of discouraged by this stupid contraption here that I made. I mean, if it actually turned, it would be great, but nah, it's not gonna. So anyways, let me know in the comments if you think you could have done something different that would have made it work better. Maybe a smaller diameter spit. Maybe my paddles are too heavy. Maybe I'm just being too impatient. I don't know. Could have found maybe a faster flowing stream, but this doesn't seem to be the case today. So that's okay. My little fire isn't looking too promising either. So I think what I'm going to do is just pack up my stuff and just get the hell out of here. Got the fire. I got it started. I mean, I could have it, but really there's not a lot of point at this point because my rotisserie isn't working. I did bring some beautiful farmer sausages that I was hoping to eat on for the fire, but that's okay. I'll take them home and maybe build a fire at home and cook them. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like button. You subscribe to the channel. Look, subscribing to the channel really, really makes a difference to YouTube, small channel YouTubers. I don't know if the regular folk understand, but basically your channel is all based on subscribers and viewerships. So if you could just hit the subscribe button, that would mean a lot to me. It would help my channel out immensely. And in return, I will keep making videos for you and try and improve my skills. Anyways, been great. Stay dirty, stay dusty, stay out in the woods. Thank you for watching. Perfect timing. It's just starting to rain.
Wish I was a giant, and then I'd be taller than all the buildings desperate men built to straw. Flat limbs, I cut them down with my chainsaw. Keen eyes see better from up here. Kinda cold, so I get a little grizzly sometimes. Wind through my chest hair. Oh my God, I wish I could do that. I don't think so, but I don't know. When I was a kid, you were someone's secret. You've been undercover ever since you got here. Still have your figure after all these dog years. I don't think so, I don't think so. Shine like a dog star, you can light the coastline, but they never see you try to tell you so. Right up my teeth, getting lost up there, lying through your braces. That's impossible. Drop down, you can hardly bear. Double park spaceship, that won't happen. I'm right here, picking up the chairs, but I was first, so I cleaned up last. What then? Oh no. I was eating berries, getting smarter every day. Wish I was a quicksilver, like you were running through your veins. I'd like to make a change, pour it down my throat. Smoke rises up, midnight flame. Stars twinkle like they know my name. In the shadows I build my game. Play with fire, never the same.
Strike the match for the heat, crackling under dancing feet. Embers glow in the darkening street. Hearts ignite in every beat.
Burn, baby, burn, take me higher. Leaving trails. gold. Wonders in the heat untold. Blaze a path in red and gold. The fires dance, brave and bold. Ashes fell, moonlight show.